This is delicious, by the way. What did you make me?
Oh, that's a pina colada. Let's get the vacation going.
Yeah,
get it started.
Is this your rum?
Yeah, Silver Ray rum.
Listen, this is Bruno Mars. Yeah, the man who had the entire planet screaming, "Don't believe me, just watch." The Super Bowl headliner, the Grammy hoarder, the guy who somehow turned old school funk into a 21st century money machine. But here's the thing, the Bruno you think you know, that's the stage version. That's the polished smile. The real Bruno, the one behind the glitter, the Grammys, the tuxedos, that Bruno is darker, grittier, broken in ways the world never saw. And tonight, I'm going to tell you his story. But fair warning, this is not the Bruno Mars you put on your playlist. This is the Bruno Mars who slept in zoos, who lost millions gambling, who nearly burned his career to ashes before it even began. This is the Bruno Mars you were never supposed to see. Picture this, you're 4 years old. Most kids are still learning to read. You're strapping on a tiny Elvis jumpsuit, walking onto a stage in Honolulu, and stealing the show from grown adults twice your size. By 5, Bruno was headlining the halftime show at the Aloha Bowl in front of 40,000 people. At 6, he's on the Arsenio Hall show. At 7, he's in a Hollywood movie. And by the time he turned 10, he had performed nearly 1,000 shows. Let me say that again, 1,000 shows before double digits. You wonder why Bruno rehearses for the Super Bowl and calls it recess? Because his childhood was literally showtime. But here's the thing, when you live under that much spotlight that young, shadows start to grow. And Bruno's shadow was coming. At 12, the music stopped. His parents divorced. The family act split. The lights went out. One day, he's the little Elvis prodigy. The next, he's homeless. Not metaphorically, literally homeless. He, his dad, and his brother slept wherever they could. A beat-up Cadillac, rooftops, even an abandoned bird zoo where peacocks screamed all night long. Think about that. The kid who once sang on national TV is now showering in hotel pools just to stay clean. For months, no electricity, no proper meals. Spam musubi from 7-Eleven was dinner. At school, kids laughed at his thrift store clothes. But Bruno, he refused to break. He started moonlighting as a Michael Jackson impersonator for $75 a night. Not for fame, just to buy blank CDs and bus fare. And this is where you realize, Bruno didn't just want music, he needed it to survive. Fast forward, he's 18. He lands in Los Angeles with $600, 3 demo CDs, and nothing else. Sounds like a movie, right? Wrong. LA chewed him alive. He ate 99-cent tacos for weeks, lied his way into a DJ job he couldn't even do, shared a studio with 6 guys in a single room. Then Motown came calling. The dream. He signed, but 9 months later, they dropped him without releasing a single song. Imagine telling your family, "I made it," and then calling back to admit you didn't. Humiliation doesn't even cover it. But here's where most people quit. Not Bruno. He linked up with Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine. Together, they became the Smeezingtons, writing in parking lots, paying for studio time with burritos, and studying 1,000 hit songs just to reverse engineer success. And then it clicked. They gave Flo Rida Right Round, a hit. Then B.O.B.'s Nothing on You, another hit. Bruno wasn't famous yet, but he was no longer invisible. 2010. Finally, Bruno's own voice, Just the Way You Are. #1 in 8 weeks, 13 times platinum. Over 6 million downloads in the US alone. Then came Grenade. That song didn't just hit #1. It hit #1 in 15 countries, sold millions. By March 2011, Bruno Mars had 2 songs selling over 5 million copies each. Only Lady Gaga had done that before. And at 25, he became the youngest male Grammy winner since Stevie Wonder. It looked like an overnight success. But remember, by then, Bruno had already been performing for 21 years. The industry wanted him safe, predictable, a shiny Latin pop star. But Bruno Mars doesn't play safe. 2012, he drops Unorthodox Jukebox. It's chaos. Disco, rock, reggae, ballads. Label execs panicked. One memo literally said, "Radio won't play this." Bruno didn't care. He gave up part of his royalties just to pay for live horns and vintage gear. And guess what? 6 million copies sold. Critics called it a jukebox at 3 a.m. Chaotic but magnetic. Bruno had done the unthinkable. He bent pop radio to his will. 2014, one jam session, one voice memo. The result? A cultural nuke called Uptown Funk. It didn't just hit #1. It sat there for 14 weeks straight, the longest streak of the decade, until Old Town Road years later. It sold millions. It streamed billions. It played at weddings, gyms, CPR classes, and yes, Delta Airlines used it as a boarding song. People literally ordered more drinks because of Uptown Funk. That's not a song, that's hypnosis. But while the world was dancing, Bruno was hiding something darker. March 2024, a report drops. Bruno Mars owes $50 million to MGM Resorts. Gambling debt. The internet explodes. Memes, hashtags, TikToks. Overnight, Bruno broke is trending. MGM denies it instantly, calls it nonsense. But the story is too juicy, too believable, because here's the secret. Bruno did gamble. He admitted once that he lost everything in a poker game. And when people said he lost $17 million in one night, nobody blinked, because it sounded possible. So what did Bruno do? He didn't deny it. He weaponized it. On stage, he deadpans, "Ever since they said I'm on the hook for 50 mil, my phone's been dry. Where my friends at when I'm up?" The crowd roared. Clips went viral. 6 million views in a day. Instead of killing him, the rumor became free publicity. But deep down, it revealed something. That child who grew up chasing stages now chased casinos. That hunger, that edge, it never left. And then there's Jessica, the woman Bruno called his rock, his anchor, the one who stood beside him for over a decade. They met in 2011, built a quiet life together, a dog, a home, a love story away from the cameras. But by 2024, the silence was deafening. Anniversary posts vanished. Bruno flew alone. Jessica wrote just 15 words. "I will always celebrate and be happy for all of his continued achievements." Translation, it was over. The man who wrote "When I Was Your Man" didn't just sing heartbreak. He lived it. Here's what makes Bruno Mars terrifyingly unique. He's not just talented, he's obsessive. Recording 16 snare takes, mixing songs on 25-year-old consoles just to sound like 1993, dropping 9-track albums that feel like mixtapes. Every choice is deliberate. Every sound is engineered to last. That's why he doesn't just make hits, he makes culture-shifting anthems. From a child star who slept in zoos, to a homeless teenager fighting to survive, to a global superstar haunted by rumors, addictions, and heartbreak, Bruno Mars is proof of one thing. No matter how bright the lights, no matter how deep the shadows, he will always come back. And now you have to ask yourself, the next time you hear "Just the Way You Are" or "Uptown Funk" or "Leave the Door Open," are you hearing just a catchy tune? Or are you hearing the voice of a man who clawed his way out of homelessness, who stared down addiction, who lost love, who gambled everything, and still stands on stage smiling? Because now you know, and you can't unknow it.